A very good afternoon to all. So today we have with us Mr. Kabir Punde, who is going to share important topics related to Unreal Game Engine. So I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Jan University. So you can start, sir. Over to you, sir, please.
Hi. Thanks, Tanmay. All right. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Just want you guys to be able to see me and put a name to a face. I'm going to be turning my video off for the next part of the talk. But just so you guys know, I am here. And just so you can put a name to a face. My name is Kabir. I come from an architecture background, actually. I have a degree in architecture and landscape architecture. I come from a family of architects. So my parents are both architects. My sister is also an architect. Like I mentioned, I also have a degree in architecture and landscape architecture. So I don't come from a traditional game development background. I come from an architectural background. Recently made the transition to doing all kinds of things with interactive experiences in Unreal Engine. That includes making games, includes working with virtual production, also includes making some real-time experiences. So today's format is going to be, so basically the 2-day format is going to be such that for today we're going to basically be learning about how to set up the engine. You'll first of all obviously hear a little bit about me and my company, what we do. Then you'll learn how to start the engine, set it up, and then a quick introduction of how to use Unreal Engine and the tools within it. At least the simple inner workings of the Unreal Engine. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll do a follow-along session where you guys can download the engine on your computers if you would like, and we'll create a simple gameplay mechanic from scratch. This is to give you confidence and to show you that you don't need too much prior experience in coding or game development to be able to build something quickly. And then we'll obviously have a Q&A. The reason we're going to be doing the follow-along session tomorrow is that the engine to install and download takes a considerable amount of time depending on your internet connection as well as your PC. So I will be going over how to install it really quickly, and you guys can do that for today, and then hopefully tomorrow you guys will have the engine ready and we can do something together. Again, at any point, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat section or raise your hand or however you guys want to do it on this Zoom platform. Okay. So little introduction about myself. I'm the director and founder of Studio Grio. We're a small multidisciplinary digital design studio based out of Gurgaon, New Delhi. Basically, I have a landscape architecture degree from Philadelphia University, which is now known as Jefferson University. I was an practicing landscape architect for a few years. I practiced in Pune as well as New Delhi, and I started my own architecture visualization firm called Studio Grio in 2000. What Studio Grio started as and what it does now. To begin with, we started specifically doing architectural visualization stuff. Because my background was in architecture, we used to basically use real-time engines like Unreal Engine, Lumion and stuff to be able to interface with our clients, to show our clients what their spaces would look like and what our designs would look like. But quickly, while using these tools, we quickly realized that it was beneficial for us to use these tools for designing in-house. So we could make design decisions because of the visualization aspect of things. So over the years, we basically, whatever we learned through this journey of designing in architecture visualization and Unreal Engine, we leverage those topics and concepts to building all kinds of experiential experiences. So I'm going to quickly just show my website. So my website is studiogrio.in. You guys can take a look at it. It just talks a little mostly about our architectural visualization work. I'll be talking about some of our other stuff, other work as well. Really quickly, just going to show you what kind of work we used to do. So this is a small video of how we started. I hope the audio is coming across for the video.
No, Kabir. No
Audio is not coming, sir.
Okay. Is there a way I can put the audio on in my screen share?
You have to just unplug your headphones and to make sure that audio is audible.
So I can hear it on my end.
Yeah, that is the reason. You have to unplug your audio, the headphones, to make it audible for everyone.
Okay. Are you able to hear it now?
I think no, Kabir.
No, sir.
Okay, just 1 second.
Kabir, you can do one more thing. You can just share the link in the chat so that everyone can click by themselves. That's the alternate method.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because let's move on.
Okay, just 1 second. I think I have found it. Yeah. Okay. Should be fine now. Is it coming through now?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay, perfect.
My name is Prithvi and I'm from Cosmos. I'm here at the Design Cell office, viewing the presentation by Design Cell on our hotel project on the landscape aspect. Yeah, so actually I was pretty amazed by what the software could do. It was really nice to see a 360 view of the entire project.
So today, for the first time, we did a virtual reality experience for the clients. Normally, the clients are used to seeing 2D plans, they're used to seeing 3D perspectives, they're used to seeing sections, elevations. But today, we put them on the Oculus Rift, we put them in an immersive experience that is completely different from what they have ever seen before.
Typically, our presentation used to start with hand sketches, which were then taken into the computer, and we had computer renderings and 3D views of the computer. So that's how traditionally we've been doing it. But how this presentation was different was because we could actually give the client an immersive experience wherein he actually felt the space and he could actually experience the space.
We at Studio Grio initially started working with virtual reality pertaining to architecture and how we could make real-time decisions of detailing and materiality and all these different aspects.
It really helped because you could see a lot of things which you cannot really visualize only on a 2D paper.
The first time they put it on and they got a sense of being in a different environment, being able to turn their head left, right, and see every little detail. The more they saw, the more immersed they got.
When I was going through that presentation, there were a lot of things that came to me and which I probably wouldn't have been able to point out or, give feedback on if I had not had this experience. From that aspect, I thought it was phenomenal.
I think
so basically this is just showing you what we had started as. So this is the first ever one we did for using virtual reality, and it was a completely static environment. So this is with me having no knowledge of anything except for rudimentary 3D modeling as well as just some simple architectural visualization techniques. We were able to build a virtual reality experience where you could just kind of move around the space. So that is the first one that we did that has no interactivity at all. The next thing I'm going to show you guys really quickly is something we did for Design by Design. So basically this was in a public gallery. This was the gallery and we made a virtual reality experience of the gallery. Our VR experience was a booth within this gallery itself. So they were able to kind of inhabit the same space that they were in physically. They were able to inhabit it virtually as well. And as you can see on the right, they were able to manipulate the space into looking different.
Welcome to Studio Grio's virtual reality experience. Grab a card by pressing down on either of the trigger buttons. Release it by letting go. Alright, let's have some fun now. Select a wall or the floor by pointing at it and pressing the right trigger to change its material. Select a material box with your right hand to change the materials of the walls. Let's try placing a few pieces of furniture around. Select the type of seating by moving your right hand towards any of the mini model. Fair.
So as you can see here, she's actually in a different gallery space, but over here in virtual reality, she's in a cafe sort of situation. Just gonna skip forward a little.
Now let's try doing some planting. Use the planting palette on your left hand to choose what you would like to plant. Then press the right trigger, place it. That's it for now. See you again later.
So as you can see, I was able to build upon what I had done previously by making a static experience and creating more interactivity within it. This was giving me more and more confidence as to what I can do as a person who has no traditional game development background within a gaming engine. So once we were able to do a bunch of these architecture visualization experiences, we decided to take a crack at making some games. So the first thing I want to show you is this Holy VR. It's a simple game that we made as part of a game jam in I think October. It was a Oculus funded game jam. So basically, just a 1 week shoot to quickly make a game. So I was partnered with 4 of these lovely gentlemen who were quite skilled themselves. 3 of them were from America, 1 of them was from Australia. I'm gonna quickly show you guys a quick video of it as well. Yeah, so that was a quick video. That was a quick game we made in 1 week. So it had multiplayer aspects involved in it as well. It's quite a fun experience. We're hoping to release it by Holy time next year on the Oculus platform. And the next thing I want to talk about is our current major game, which is in production, which is a VR cricket game. It has recently been awarded an Epic Mega Grant. This grant is basically given by Epic Games, which is the owner of Unreal Engine, to promising and upcoming developers for their games and other kinds of projects. So this Mega Grants program is not only for games, it's for anything to do with Unreal Engine. So even if you're making a plugin, if you're making content, no matter what you're doing, you can apply for one and they might help you out financially. I'm going to quickly share a video of our cricket game, which is in production right now.
Let's go.
Yes.
So currently we're in development of this game, looking to release it maybe next summer. Currently my team is very small, it's just 2 people. It's me who's basically done everything in the engine. And I have one more employee who's a 3D modeler. So he's a hard surface 3D modeler from my architectural visualization work. So essentially everything on this game that you see is done mostly by me, someone who has no coding background, no game development background. So it's a real testament to the learning resources available online and the power of the Unreal Engine that someone like me who has no development knowledge, prior development knowledge, was able to produce something worthwhile. So I guess that's it about me. The next thing I'm going to talk about really quickly is how you can go about acquiring Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is free for everyone to use. All you have to do is make an account on Epic Games. So if you just type Unreal Engine in Google, it should take you to the Epic Games website. And what you have to do is you have to create an account. And yeah, so all of this is free, like you see. The only time you have to pay royalties to Unreal Engine is if your game is successful and it makes more than a certain amount of money, then you have to give them 5% of the 5% royalty on it. But before this amount, which is $1 million, until you acquire $1 million in sales, you don't have to pay them anything in royalty. And if you're not selling a game, if you're just using it for architectural visualization or things like that, like how we are, that is free without any caveat whatsoever. Yep. So all you got to do is install this Epic Games installer. I'm not going to install it right now, but once you do install it, you will be brought up to share the full screen this time. Okay. Right. Are you guys able to see this? This Epic Games launcher should be up. And what you want to do is you want to click on Unreal Engine on the bottom left. Obviously, you want to make sure you're logged in. So I'm logged in here as Kadir Punde. You want to click on Unreal Engine and then click on Library. And yours will most probably be completely blank. You have to click plus to add an Unreal Engine version. And Unreal Engine is, it's an engine that's continuously evolving. So as you see the different versions of the engine, and each version of the engine has its own set of features, which is building upon itself. So 4.0 has some features, 4.1 has all the features 4.0 has, plus some more, and they keep adding on to each other. And now we're at 4.25, which is the official release. And there currently has a 4.26 version, which is in preview. So in general, we want to avoid the preview ones because they can have a lot of bugs and stuff. They release this so that they can get feedback from developers and tighten up all the bugs and fix any issues that people might have. But all the other ones that are not preview, these are all official releases and should be pretty much bug free. Obviously, game development is pretty expensive and you can always have bugs coming up every now and then. But for the most part, all these ones are stable versions. So currently we're going to be working with 4.25 because that's the latest version that we have. So I'm just going to quickly start it. So it can take some time to start up. So currently we're starting a completely empty level, so it shouldn't take so long. But if you have a pretty heavy project like my game here, you can see it can take me sometimes like 5 minutes to open up for the project to open up. So right now we're just going to start a new one. I'm not going to select any of these recent ones. I'm going to select a new one. And what we want to use is this games one. Obviously, if you're using something for film and television like virtual production, you can use that. If you're using it for architecture, you can use that. So this is one I used to use for a while. But for now, we're just going to use game. And we're going to click next. And now it's asking me what type of game do I want to create. So Unreal Engine offers these amazing templates, which already have some functionality built into them. So you can choose a blank one. You can choose a first-person shooter type if you want, like your Counter-Strike, Valorant type things. You can have a flying game, like one of your space shooters. You can have a puzzle game, or you can have a rolling ball game, third-person, top-down. All these are just simple templates that have some basic functionality, and you can build upon that. So for a lot of my work, I use the virtual reality template just to start off with, and then I continuously build upon them. Obviously, you can also start with a blank project and build everything from scratch. But that's kind of like reinventing the wheel. You don't necessarily need to do that. So for today, we're just going to start a simple third-person one. The next thing it's going to ask you is what type of project you want to run. Do you want to run a Blueprint project or a C++ project? Now that there's two different ways of using the engine fundamentally in terms of setting up your game logic. The first one is obviously using C++ coding. So this is a very mainstream coding language that is used extensively all over the place. Unreal Engine has its own C++ API basically, and they also have what is known as Blueprint scripting, which is a version of visual scripting which is built upon C++. So it's a way for people like me who don't have any coding knowledge to be able to build gameplay logic visually. So this is super helpful, and one of the biggest reasons I chose Unreal Engine as my platform for development was that they had this Blueprint scripting feature which I could use to program everything. So in my entire game currently is built on Blueprints and doesn't have a single line of coding or traditional coding. I mean, Blueprints is its own style of coding, but it's much easier to pick up, much faster to iterate on, and super helpful. So we use that. So we're going to continue to use that because I'm assuming we don't have C++ knowledge. We're going to use maximum quality. You can also use scalable 2D. You can change these settings later. And then also it's asking me for ray tracing. I don't have a ray trace a ray trace capable card right now. So I'm going to disable it. If you have a strong PC with a 2000 series card or a 3000 series card, feel free to enable this. We're going to choose desktop currently for our target platform. You can always choose mobile or tablet if you're trying to make a mobile or tablet game. This can also be changed later. Right now, I'm just going to keep it to desktop. And last thing is asking me is, do I want starter content? So starter content basically is a bunch of features and materials and stuff that is already going to be given to you when you start the project. You don't necessarily need this, but for our case, I'm going to keep it. And I'm just going to name my project something. So we name this Gen Tutorial. I'm going to name it Gen University. So it's going to go ahead and create me a blank new project. So while this is going on, I'll also give you guys a quick rundown of what all Unreal Engine is being used for currently. So Unreal Engine is not necessarily only used for gaming. Like I said before, I use it for architecture visualization. People use it for all kinds of things. So if you guys are familiar with The Mandalorian, which is a Star Wars TV show, so Mandalorian also used a lot of Unreal Engine in their production. So with their green screening and stuff.
Something new started a way of replacing backgrounds and creating set extensions. It's a proven technique that can deliver.
So basically, they with the help of a green screen and real-time lighting compositing and using LED walls like this,
which requires almost no post-production. The whole process is finalized on set. I'm talking about virtual sets, which have been
next time. And so that led to you have a green stage, you have pre-lit green areas that you could expose, and then it turned into these video walls where you could have green just behind the actor, and then interactive light, which we used on Jungle Book also for shadows and things on the characters. We took all the technology that I've been messing around with from all those other projects and applying it to a very specific application that would work for this.
Yep. So Unreal Engine is being used, quite extensively in virtual production now. So that's where the next big boom is coming in. So the good thing about Unreal Engine is that once you learn Unreal Engine, you can kind of use it for anything you like. So I started using it for architecture visualization. Now I use it to make games, use it for virtual production, all kinds of different things. Okay, so here we are. We now have Unreal Engine open. So when it opens up, it's going to look pretty much like this. This here, where you can see me moving my mouse, is the viewport. This is where you can see the visual representation of the game. On the right, you have the world outliner. So this is basically an index of what all exists in your current level. So you can see that it has arena geometry, which is going to have all of this stuff. It has the sky. It has our third-person character, which we chose earlier. So if I just press play just to see what is already happening, you can see I can move around with my mouse. And if I press my WASD keys, I can kind of start running around. So basically, this is just a simple third-person program that they've done. If you ever see this green actor anywhere, if you click on it, you can always see this open help URL. So whenever you see this green actor, if you click on it, it'll open some documentation from Unreal Engine directly. So this is showing me a simple tutorial of using the third-person character template to make a game. So you can easily follow something like that and start making a game. So that's actually how I started kind of making a game. What we have here on the left is basically a place actors panel. So you can pull things out from here and place them in the world. For example, I could just pull a cube, put it in the world, a cone, cylinder. But over here, you might also have things like a point light, spotlight. So basically different type of entities you can pick up from here and drop them in the world. At the bottom here, you have the content browser. This is basically a simple folder structure to show all the assets that you have in the game. So assets would include your blueprints, which are basically your gameplay logic. They could also be textures, they could be materials, they could be static meshes, any type of assets, sound, audio clips, whatever. All of that is basically going to be your assets. And the last thing we have down here is the details panel. So if I click on an object, it's going to give me the details of that object, where in the world it's located, what is its orientation, what scale is it at, if it's movable or static, and you know what mesh is it using, what material is it using, is it simulating physics. So all of this kind of looks quite overwhelming, but once you start using it, it's very straightforward and very informative. So it looks overwhelming, but it's not so overwhelming. If you just give it time and a little bit of practice, you'll start getting the hang of it, and you can build up confidence really quickly while working in this. So at this point, I'm just gonna take some time to see if anyone has any questions. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to quickly look in the chat to see if there's anyone who's written a question. Okay. So Rohan Vankade asks how to get Unreal Engine from Epic Store or any other site. Hopefully we covered that. I hope that was clear. If you guys are able to follow that procedure and download the engine, that'll be great, so that tomorrow maybe you guys can follow along and we can build something really simple. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now that we have this blueprint, so this blank project set up, and it's kind of doing its own thing. It's working however it's currently set up. I'm going to close this project down, and I am going to show you another real interesting part of Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine actually, it really helps facilitate your learning. So like we clicked on library and we saw Unreal Engine versions. you can also click on this Learn tab. So this Learn tab is actually really useful. Over here, you can find tutorials. You can also find ready projects. And you can also find these examples, like this content example, in-camera VFX example, interior archways example. So these are basically ready projects or, basically templates to show you how some things work. So this blueprint one is really good. So maybe I'll show you guys this one as well. I'm just going to download this to let it happen in the background. Okay, so while this downloads, let me show you what I already have. So I have gone ahead and also downloaded this one called Content Examples right here. So if you click on the Learn tab, it's the first guy here, Content Examples. So I'm going to open this up right now, this Content Examples. So these are basically the levels in the content example. So you can choose any one of these and you'll get to see some of this implementation of these features. So really quickly, let me just choose one randomly. I'll choose, let's say, Blueprints Overview. Okay. Okay. So this is basically a simple blueprint level. Right? And over here, it's kind of telling you what all it can do. So if you see this, it says Hello World, simulate or play to see Hello World appear in the air. So at the top here, I can just do simulate and it'll show me the text that is happening. It's also, as you can see, you can also see some other stuff happening in the background. So this stuff does not get activated if I'm not playing in the game. So as you see, I don't see Hello Play anymore and I can't see that particle effect in the background that I was seeing. This rocket is also purple. But if I do play, you see the rocket turn from purple to blue and I can see these effects again. Now, interesting thing about these is that you can go in and kind of, break apart anything you want and see how it was built. So I'm going to take this blueprint of this rocket and I'm going to right click on it and click on Edit BP Event Graph. Okay, that's going to show up here. So this is basically a single blueprint. Now this blueprint contains just this rocket. I can see the blueprint in the viewport. The viewport is again the visual representation of the blueprint. And in this event graph, we have the coding. So this is basically how they have coded the color to change. So we'll go ahead and deconstruct this really quickly and see how they've done it. So as you can see, the rocket is purple here. But when we press play, the rocket becomes blue. So let's take a look at how that's happening. Because we're not using C++, we're using visual scripting. So these are basically visual nodes that are built upon the C++ classes and functions. So this is kind of showing us what's happening. So event begin play is telling me when the game starts. Color blends over time. So over time, this color is going down and changing the value of the rocket, or the material assigned to the rocket rather. So if you open up that timeline, it is showing you its kind of curve that it's going to follow to change the color. So I'm going to pull this guy down here so that you can see both of them in tandem happening. So this is where the interesting stuff of Unreal Engine comes, that you can quickly see what's happening and quickly start debugging and learning how things are working. So now when I start play, you will see these nodes kind of light up and the connections light up, showing you what's happening. I might have to select it here. Okay, one second. Let me try that again. Yep. So you see this? the line lighting up is kind of showing you what is in process right now. So now that the color has changed, this is completely stopped, and now it's returned to its blue state. Okay. Next I'm going to show you is this interesting landscape one. So Unreal Engine has this inbuilt landscape editor. So you can quickly go around and like sculpt things and build things. So for example, they've built this really simple terrain. I'm going to start editing this terrain in a few ways. The first way is going to be being able to sculpt things. So for that, I have to click on this modes on the top. I'm going to click on landscape. This activates the landscape mode. And I'm going to click on sculpt, top left here. And I'm going to turn the brush size a little bit down. So like say this much. Right. And I can start sculpting around, making the mountains bigger or smaller. So this is just a quick way of getting like easy and fast terrain in the engine. So I'm just using the smooth tool right now. I can also use the flatten tool to kind of make a plateau. And I can also press shift and depress the landscape if I want. Right. Next thing I can do is I can quickly, now you see that the snow and the mud is not kind of relating to my terrain anymore. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this paint feature. And at the bottom here, I can see the different layers. So this has to be set up in the material. We're not going to be bothering looking at that just yet because that's slightly advanced. But we're just going to use what we have, what Unreal Engine has given us by default. So I'm going to choose this soil. Again, to change the size of the brush. And I can start painting soil on top of the terrain. I choose the grass and kind of go in and start painting the grass. I can change the brush fall off so that it's, not as sharp. And then we can go ahead and add snow to some parts. So I kind of don't like the tool strength. I'm going to turn it down. Yeah, this is much better. Right. So this is really easy and quick way of developing environments within Unreal Engine. And the next thing I want to show you guys is, so it's that same kind of landscape that they have there, but over here they have this, they've kind of populated with trees and rocks. So we're going to take a look at this also. This is a really interesting feature that they have to quickly populate scenes with trees and rocks and small geometries and things like that around. So for that, we're going to go into this foliage tool. Same place, modes. We're going to click on foliage. And here you can see the tree. Sorry?
Guys, can you be in mute? Samuel sir, can you please mute Mr. Who is in mute, please? Thank you. Sorry for the disturbance, Kabir.
No problem. Okay.
Please go ahead, Kabir. Yeah.
So yeah, the next thing we're going to take a look at is quickly being able to paint things. So you can see these three items here. So the first is this dead tree. You can open it up real quick. This is it. The second item we have is this rock. Okay. And the last item we have is this tree. Okay. So what we can do is we can select any one of these three, two out of the three, or all three. So for now, I'm going to select all three, right? And I'm going to quickly go ahead and delete everything here. I'm pressing shift and starting to paint, and that deletes everything. Now this is going to give me a little bit more freedom as to painting the foliage on myself. So this is a different type of painting. Earlier, we were painting texture on top of an asset. Now we're painting foliage. So the foliages are essentially static meshes or dynamic meshes that are going to be placed procedurally around the world according to the way you handle the painting feature. So here we will so if I start painting, yeah, it's not. Yep. So as I start painting, you can see it's starting to paint. But what if I want more control over this, right? So say first, first I'm going to go in and I only want to paint rocks. So I'm going to turn everything off, just turn the rocks on. I'm going to change the density a little bit. Okay. I'm going to change the size of this brush. Right. And I can go ahead and start painting whatever I want. So, okay, so I can see that the rocks are becoming too much. So I'm going to undo that. Maybe change this to like say 100. Maybe 500. Right. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the rocks off, turn the tree on, and change this density to maybe say 500 and start kind of painting these trees around. Right, and then we can make a decision, say, of taking these trees that don't have any leaves, these dead trees, and start placing them in areas that are slightly more shady, that don't have so much sunlight. So say 250. So with this kind of stuff, you can, get up and running with making a simple environment really quickly. Okay. So that was some of the landscape features that they have. Let me take a look at the most intimidating one in my experience. So this level is basically called the math hall. This has got a lot of complex features, but it's also a simple way to kind of visualize how math in Unreal Engine works and what that math can kind of give you. I'm just going to let the shaders at the bottom compile. So when it says this compiling shaders at the bottom, what it actually is doing is it's getting the material information from all the materials and then kind of compiling them to be able to represent them in the world correctly. So you can see that these items with this checkered gray pattern, these are the shaders that have not been compiled yet. So as and when the shader gets compiled, you'll see the materials start popping up. So the material here is popped up. It should start popping up here any minute. Okay. And like I said, all these projects are free and already available on the Unreal Engine Learn tab. So if you ever want to know how to do something, you can always open these up and see how they're built. This is essentially how I have learned how to do everything myself, looking at content examples, looking at documentation, and looking at YouTube videos. So while this is compiling, I can also quickly share a couple of links with you guys. Okay, so one of the areas that you can really go and get a good learning resources for Unreal Engine is Unreal Engine learn.unrealengine.com. It will bring you to the Unreal Engine online learning platform, and from here you can kind of search for any anything that you want to learn about, say for architecture visualization or game development, you will find something that is applicable to you here. So you can find things on animation, you can find things on blueprints, you can find things on AR, VR, materials, C++, any and everything. Now, for students like you who might have a little bit of experience with Unity, there's a really great course within here for Unity. So I can just type in Unity and it'll show me this course, making the switch from Unity to Unreal Engine. So this again is a 2-hour, 5-minute course. It's a free course. You can start it and finish it at your own leisure. But it'll kind of give you it'll explain Unreal Engine with parity to Unity. So whatever features you're used to using in Unity, how that knowledge can translate to Unreal will be made available to you through this course. The other thing, so obviously you want to use this learning resources from that are directly given to Unreal Engine, given by Unreal Engine. The other thing you want to use is the Unreal Engine for documentation. So this documentation is it's quite extensive. It covers almost all parts of the engine. So you can kind of get lost here. But at the very basic and fundamental level, if you want to learn something about how the engine is made or how the engine does something, you can take a look here. So if you ever don't know what a blueprint node means or what a material expression means, you can come here and kind of get a little bit more information on what it's doing. So this can also be quite intimidating and daunting, but for the most part, I would say use it for what you require. So if you ever have a problem, then you search for it in the documentation. Don't kind of just go into the documentation looking to learn, because that might not be most fruitful. For that, you can use those courses and the Unreal Engine learning resources that I was talking about. But if you ever want some more in-depth knowledge, you can use the Unreal Engine for documentation. And the last thing I want to talk about for the, for you to be able to learn Unreal Engine is using the Unreal Engine Answer Hub. So this is basically a small, not really a forum, but like a hub for asking questions and getting replies from the community as well as Unreal Engine employees. So anyone can come up here and ask any question and they will get responded to. So I have myself have asked a lot of questions. I myself have given a lot of answers here. So if you ever have a question, even if you type it in Google and someone else has faced that issue, it most probably will show up in this answers.unreal engine website. Again, this is free. Just all you need is that same login from Epic Games. So all of the stuff I've been talking about today is obviously going to be free. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So this is the math hall one. So this is basically, let me choose one that is going to show you a little bit more. So, okay. So this math expression is showing you the absolute node, basically the node that is called absolute. So what absolute does is takes the value of anything and then gives you only the positive value. So for example, if you feed it a value of -5, you will receive the answer as 5, or -12 will turn to 12, or just normal 12 will also turn to just 12. So there are various type of math expressions that they're talking about here. So if ever you want to know what that math expression is, you can always just go inside this and open this up, and it'll kind of show you what it's doing. So as you can see, this is quite complex. It looks complex at least, but let me assure you, once you start doing this yourself, it's gonna this is gonna look small to you. It's going to be pretty easy to decipher. So tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be able to create something maybe not as complex as this, but something similar, so that you guys have an idea of how to build something in Unreal Engine. Okay, so this guy's also. So every time you open a new level that has not been opened before, you might have to go through this compiling shaders thing. So while this compiling shaders is happening, it's actually using up most of your CPU. So if I open up my task manager, yep, you can see my CPU utilization is almost 100. So for most of these things, the CPU, Unreal Engine uses the CPU to compile shaders, to process lighting, and to package the build is all used by the CPU, whereas everything you see in the rendering viewport is done by the GPU. Okay, this is done. So this quick little handy dandy level is showing you how you can go about developing your environment or level in Unreal Engine from a very basic prototype boxing phase. Click on the camera speed up so I can move around. Right. So this is basically just a blocked volume of the space that the player might be able to move around it. So this next one is essentially the same thing, but only has a little bit more assets and meshes that have been used to, dictate the space a little bit more. So earlier just had blocking volumes and such, and now this has real assets inside it. Right. So just with the help of a 3D modeler, the level designer can kind of start piecing things together. The next pass is going to be your lighting pass. So the same thing we see, only this time they have kind of resolved the lighting and got the lighting and mood to look the way they want it to look. And then the last one is going to be the polish pass, where everything, you see everything, including the functionality, the lighting, the reflections, any of the volumetric effects and things like that. So this is essentially your final pass. This UMG one works. Take a look at the lighting one. Lighting one is also. Okay. So Unreal Engine has various different types of lighting that can help you, design your level. I'm going to talk about them really quickly. So the first one is going to be your sun. So you can see that there's a sun here, there's a sky here. It's kind of, lighting the environment. Obviously here we're kind of indoors, so we can't see that light. But over here, there's a little skylight which is receiving the sunlight. So if you look at the sun, if you click on it, it's called a directional light. I can always pull one out from this place actors thing in the world. Now I have two suns in the world. Obviously this is not what you want, but the idea is from here you can kind of adjust the settings of it. So if I click on this guy on the sun, click on the lighting, the details, I can go in and start changing the color if I want, and this is kind of going to affect the color falling from the sun everywhere, but not the sky specifically. If you wanted to affect the sky, you can also do that by making the sun. Here we go. So as you can see now, the sky is being affected by the light of the sun. So I'm just going to leave that for now. So that is basically your sunlight. So the sunlight is essentially binary, like either the sun is the light is falling on the surface or it's not falling, like it's falling here and it's not falling here. So what that can result in is give you kind of, like a black and white image where there is shadow and where there isn't shadow. To mitigate that, you need to kind of give the rest of this area also some light. So for that, they use a skylight. So I'm going to bring a skylight in. So this kind of comes into like brighten the scene a little bit. This is obviously not always the case, but if you want to use that, you can definitely use that. So that is the second type of light. That is that gives you ambient light. Direction light is giving you direct sunlight. Skylight is giving you ambient light. And then the third and fourth ones are going to be more smaller lights used for specific areas. For example, this point light, you can move it around here. So it's a spherical source of light. So omnidirectional light basically. So it's giving light everywhere. Whereas this spotlight is only giving light in this direction. And you can visualize the way the light is going to fall according to the cones shown here. Whereas if I was to move the sunlight, if I move the sunlight left and right, it's not going to change at all because the sun is actually only in one direction. I can only rotate the sun. So if I was to rotate it, you can see the direction of the light changes. But if I was to move it, it's not going to change. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, actually, I'm just going to open this one again, the lighting level, so that we don't have any of the changes that we made saved. So Unreal Engine also has two different types of lighting. The first is static lighting and the other is dynamic lighting. So the difference between the two is that static lighting saves the lighting information in terms of shadow maps and saves them to memory. So that way you don't have to worry about the graphics card calculating the shadows all the time. It's a stationary object and a stationary shadow. So it kind of treats it as a texture. So it's not heavy on memory or your graphics card. Whereas dynamic lighting can be more expensive and dependent on how many items you have in the world that are dynamically lit. The GPU cost of rendering can go super high. So ideally you want to use as much static lighting as possible, or you want to use dynamic lighting with static lighting together. Also, new games like Fortnite and stuff that are built on Unreal Engine, they have a different lighting system completely where they use dynamic lighting, but they use depth of field shadows. Oh, sorry, not depth of field shadows, distant field shadows. So that's a different types of shadow creation completely from what we are traditionally used to. So we'll take a look at that as well maybe tomorrow. But for right now, so you can see if I move this light around, I can see that the shadows are being updated. But if I was to move this light, you see this shadow will start breaking basically. Like you can see reminiscence of the earlier shadow. And now it's telling me lighting needs to be rebuilt. So it needs to recalculate the lighting of the static light. We're not going to do that right now. It can take some time depending on how many items you have in the world to be able to calculate the lighting. So for right now, we're just going to leave it. The next thing you can look at is using IES light profiles. This might not be pertinent to you, but for us in architecture, different types of lights have different temperatures, different intensities, different fall-offs. And these are normally saved in IES light profiles. You can find these online, either through light manufacturers or through like libraries online. And you can apply them directly to the light and they'll start behaving more like the real world lights. The next thing you can do is light function. So what you can see here is that this light is flickering and the Unreal Engine logo is kind of like dwindling back and forth. So let's take a look at this and see if we can, if it's, so this is the function that it's using. What you're seeing here is the material graph. So this light function is essentially just a simple material. So what it's doing is it's taking the input of time. So as time gets forwarded, the number here keeps increasing. And the flicker speed will also increase. And it's using a sine node. So the sine node kind of goes back and forth. That is what's giving you the flicker effect. And last thing here is using a texture sample, which is this Unreal Engine logo, and is using a panner. A panner basically moves something from left to right, which is what you see here. Yep. So that's really simple. This is a very simple material that they've made to use here, but it gives a pretty interesting lighting effect. Okay. So another important aspect of game development in general is using a HUD. A HUD is like a heads-up display, or what you see on the screen as information like your health or how much ammo you have left or where your next checkpoint is, things like that, things of that nature basically. So this small level is basically showing you that. So as you can see, when I move around, there is a health bar at the top left over here. It's also telling me that I can press M on the M to get the menu. So all these things are handled by the heads-up display, and the use of this in Unreal Engine is basically through what is known as UMG or Unreal Motion Graphics. That you can go ahead and tweak these things. So as you can see, there's a health pickup item. So that also has a UMG on it. So as you can see, it's updating when I'm moving. So closer I move or further I move, the number is getting updated. And as soon as I go above it, my health just increased. And that thing has also disappeared. So all of this again is done in Blueprints. If you want to see how it works, really simply, you can just right click on this and edit. So it will open up. And it's kind of just showing me that I'm going to apply damage, how much damage. So in this case, it's not applying any damage. It's actually giving you health back. So it's sending a negative value for damage. And once it sends a negative value for damage, it kind of gives the player this health. And then it negatives, a negative of a negative is a positive. So it adds the value and gives us the new health. Okay, so I guess at this point, I'll again ask if anyone has any questions, and we'll just take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. Yes, is there, Rohan Wankade asks, is there any asset store for Unreal just like Unity has? Actually, Unreal Engine has a really great asset store. It's Marketplace. Oops, spell it. .unrealengine.com. Isn't it? If you just Google Unreal Engine Marketplace, maybe it's just market at Unreal Engine. Yep. So this is a pretty big asset marketplace. You can obviously look at it through your web browser like this, or the other way is to look at it within this Unreal Epic Games launcher itself, where we started the engine from. Just next to the library, there's a marketplace tab. So if you click on that, you'll get the same thing that you get on the browser. It's going to take a minute to open up in my. Yeah, so it's opened up here. The reason I open it up here is that I can do things from here much faster. For example, if I want to, add any of this to my project, I can do it from here really quickly. Once you add something to your, once you buy something from the marketplace or, acquire it, you will find it in the library tab at the bottom in your vault. So as you can see, I have so much stuff from the marketplace. It's just filled. And the reason why I have all this stuff is that Unreal Engine gives away a lot of these assets for free. So I have actually spent ₹0 gathering all these assets over time. So if you ever look at if you go to Unreal Engine Marketplace and look at this free tab, so it has a lot of Epic Games content which is free, and this is content from games that they made like Paragon and Edith Finch that never got released or have finished their life cycle, and now you can purchase them. Or by purchase, I mean I'm making air quotes here that they're actually free. All you have to do is add to cart, and then checkout. It doesn't ask you for credit card, nothing. It's free. So you can, all you have to do is add it to cart and check out, and it's going to be free. So this is Epic Games content. They every month they release some of their paid content for free. So for right now, we'll look at this free for the month. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assets that used to cost something but are free now. So as you can see, this modular snap system was 874 rupees. Now it's 0. But I have to get this within this month. If I don't get these 5 projects this month, they'll go back to their original price from next month onwards. So that's going to be in October, in a few days. So you want to make, use of these every month and purchase them. So just for you guys, I'm going to quickly show you guys. So I've added all these to the cart. I'm going to go to this thing. So now you can see it's showing me 0, 0, 0, 0. Everything is 0. My total price is also 0. I'm just going to do checkout and place order and done. And now I own these. See, I own all of these. And if I want, I can go in here and then add them, download them and add them to any project, or open them as a project separately myself. Okay. So this was free for the month. Then there's also permanently free collection. So this is stuff that they have made free forever. You can download these whenever you want. There's no time restriction on them. With the free for the month stuff, you only have to purchase them. Again, air quotes, purchase them in that month, but they'll be free, and they'll be free for you to keep forever as well. But you have to purchase them in that month for 0 rupees. And then Marketplace collection also has some stuff that is now permanently free. The last thing is the Mega Scans. So Mega Scans is basically a company that used to do photorealistic LiDAR scanning of assets and sell them on their own marketplace. But they have recently been acquired by Unreal Engine, and now they've made all of the assets completely free. So you can find really high quality assets on Megascans and Quixel's page. If you go to their own page, Megascans, they have a software called Megascans Bridge that helps you bring assets from Megascans directly into Unreal Engine. So if you want to make really good looking stuff, you can get stuff from Quixel for free from the Megascans asset library. So it's taking a while to open. Okay, we have another question. Is there any camera system? Yeah, so there are a bunch of camera systems in Unreal Engine already set up for you. For example, in this level, the camera setup is the first-person camera. The one that we had created had a third-person camera where it was kind of following the player along. And you can also have, so VR has its own camera system. You can also build your own camera system the way you want. You can, you can put, what do you call it? You can build camera tracks. Right, you can build a track, something like this, where so right now I just really quickly built my own camera system where this camera is going to follow this rail. So as you can see this, if I click on the camera, you can see this little viewport on the bottom right that is showing me the camera. And if I click on the track and I do current rail position, as I increase it, the camera starts moving, and you can see in the preview that the camera is the angle of the camera basically. And I can also do lock orientation. So this is going to kind of make the camera turn with the thing. So you can kind of go ahead and build your own camera system any way you want. So the engine is super open-ended. You either already have things that you can use, and if you can't find things you can use, you can build them yourself. They're pretty straightforward and easy to do. Some things can get a little more complex, but for the most part, you can find things and build them really quickly in Unreal Engine. All right, do we have any other questions? Yeah, doesn't look like we have any more questions. Okay, guys, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. We'll be back around 3:57. Yeah, I guess around. Okay, let's just take a 7-minute break. We'll be back at 4 o'clock, I guess. Till then, if anyone has any more questions, feel free to write them in the chat. I'll get them to it as soon as I come back. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you, guys.
इसमें क्या डिफरेंस है? तुमने तो भी तो काटे मेरे को छह में नंबर बात करता है
पढ़ने से क्या है
एक साल में बढ़ेगी वो तो भाई मेरे को याद रखिए ना वो एक साल वो ही बात बढ़िया थे अबे यार बात
Yeah, hi guys. So, hope everyone's back. Okay, since we have no further questions, I'm gonna start building something really small. Also tell you a little bit about materials. And what I built today, we will basically build on further tomorrow. You guys can follow along. So as you can see, we had started our third-person project. That was basically just this guy. We can jump around, move around. The physics and stuff is already set for us. If you ever want to see where all the player can go, you can click this lit mode here. It will show you the different types of view modes available in Android. So you can choose player collision. So you can visualize where all the player can move on top of. So for example, if I was to bring in this cube and place it here and see my player collision again, it should update with this cube in it. And you can see that stuff like this camera, stuff like this player start position, this helper icon, all of that kind of goes away when we choose player collision. Only focuses on the collision involved. So the other thing we can do is, what if we want this cube to be in the world, but we don't want the player to get stuck with the cube? So for right now, if I move and go to the cube, I can't move past it because I get stuck. I can jump on top of it, but I can't go past it. That's because it has a collision volume. If I want to make it so that the player can pass through this, I just select this cube, go into the details panel, and I'm going to search for collision, which is here. And instead of collision default, I'm going to do no collision. If I do no collision, and now look at the player collision module, the box is no longer there. So if I play, I should be able to go through the box directly. So it kind of treats the box as only a visual thing and not not something that is physics based or actually present in the physical world. It's only a visual representation. So what we're going to quickly do is we'll build something where we have a box that once we get to the box, it changes color and then dies immediately after that. So for that, I'm going to create my own blueprint, which is kind of a prefab. Like in Unity, you have prefabs. In Unreal Engine, they're called blueprints. So these are small items of script in the world that can behave or you can interact with any way you choose. So for that, I'm just going to make a new folder. We'll call it tutorial. Oops, if I can spell it correctly. I'm going to right click and create a new blueprint class. And I want it to be an actor. So you have these different types of blueprints that you can create. These are base classes that will have basic functionality. So the pawn function, a pawn class will basically be a pawn that you can control. A character is going to be like any character in the world that not necessarily you can control, but like can be an NPC or non-playable character like your crowds or whatever, or enemies. You have a player controller. Player controller basically holds the information like input. What happens when you press the left mouse button? What happens when you press WASD? All that stuff gets set up in the player controller. The game mode tells you gives you more information about the game mode and stuff like that. There are also a lot more classes down here. These are the most basic ones, but you can get into more detailed ones and build upon the ones that Unreal Engine provides from here directly. So for right now, we're only going to choose a simple actor that is basically a simple entity in the world that you can program to do anything. I'm going to name this BP for blueprint underscore so we're going to say sphere, and I'm going to open this up and it's going to be empty. Right now it only has this circle, which is basically a representation of the root in the world. It doesn't physically exist. So if I take this blueprint and bring it into the world, you can see that this white icon is still there. But if you were to press G on your keyboard, it'll go into what is known as game mode, and it'll only show you what the game represents and not the icons that are meant for you to be editing in the editor itself. So you can no longer select it or anything. So I'm going to press G again to bring it all back. This way I can select anything I want. If I press G, it all goes away. Only the physical elements in the world remain. So here I can go into the sphere blueprint, and I'm going to add a static mesh component. So I've added a static mesh, but nothing has shown up. It's still that white icon that we had before. That's because the static mesh is 0 here. There's nothing. It says none. So here we're going to find a sphere and add it. So I've added the editor sphere. And now you can see there's a big sphere involved here. And I'm going to click compile and save. And now you can see that there's a sphere representation in the world. So this is looking a little too big to me. So I can just go down here and change the scale. So let's make it half the size, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Alternatively, I can also lock it so that it kind of follows the aspect ratio of the scale. So if I change it 1 here, it all changes to 1. So I'm just going to keep this 0.5. So it still looks a little too big. I'm going to change it to say 0.2. Yep. So this seems more like it. As you can see, it has that grid material we spoke about earlier, which is the default material. Right now, we've not told this sphere to get any material. In the materials tab, it's telling me it's none. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a material for this sphere. We're going to right click again, click on material. Now it's going to give me a new blank material. I'm going to name this BP. Oh, sorry, not BP. M for material. Sphere mat. So give the material of the sphere. Once we open this up, it's going to be a blank blueprint looking thing, which is known as the material graph. Here you can add properties to your color. Add properties to your material like color and reflections and stuff. And whatever you add, you can see a real-time update of that in the side viewport. So right now I have not given it any information, so it's completely black. So let's go ahead and give it some information. So for the base color, I want to give it some color. So I'm going to right click anywhere and it's going to show up this menu, which you can type constant 3 vector. So when I do a constant 3 vector, it's showing me a black box here. Basically what a constant 3 vector is a construct of an RGB color. So if I open this up, so R, G, and B. So if I say 1, 1, and 1, I should get a white box. So this is the white color. White color is 1, 1, 1. So if I plug it into this base color, you'll see this guy turning into white. Alternatively, I can change this green to say 0.1 and blue also to 0.1. That's going to give me more of a reddish color. If I want a completely red one, I can just do 0, 0, 0 and give me a completely red color. Right. So now that I have this this setup, the ball is red. I'm going to click apply so that it saves it and applies the color. Now basically made a really simple red material. It has no functionality. It's just red. So I'm going to go back to my BP sphere and assign that sphere material that we just created, the sphere mat. And I'm going to click compile again. And now you can see that this ball is now red. Now let's add some shininess to it, right? So the way the Unreal Engine uses materials is through a PBR workflow. A PBR basically stands for physically based rendering. The way physically based rendering works is that it calculates per pixel how the lighting should affect a certain material and give you real to life results. So for right now, what we're going to use is this red color, and we're going to try and give this thing either a little bit more shininess or less shininess. So I'm just going to take this and plug this into the roughness. And as I change the move this sphere around, you can see now it's got these shiny reflections. So if I click apply, oops, and see here, now you can see that there's some shininess to this ball. You can see some of the shadows, I mean the reflections in the bottom. So let's go ahead and change this value a little bit. So let's bring it up. Now, as you see, as I start bringing the number up, you'll start seeing the shininess kind of go away. So in this way, I can kind of manipulate the material really easily. Okay. So for right now, I'm going to let this go away. I'm also not going to use the roughness. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put it into emissive color. I'm going to break that. And I'm going to choose unlit. So what an unlit material does is receives no shadows. So now I'm not getting any shadows, nor am I getting any reflections. It's just a red sphere, like a red bob that's not affected by the light. It's casting a shadow because the sphere is casting a shadow, but the material itself is not receiving any shadow anymore. So this is used for things like UI elements, also things like things in the world that don't really require the sun information. So for right now, we're going to keep this as this material. What we're going to do is we're going to right click on this material and change it to parameter. And I'm going to name this parameter color. So the idea is that later on, we can use this color information and change it or use it for our own purposes. So for right now, we're just going to leave this as it is. And we're going to go to our sphere blueprint. And in our construction script, what we're going to tell it is that we're going to take this static mesh. Our static mesh is the sphere again. And create a dynamic material instance. And we're going to give it the source, which is going to be m_sphere mat. So what it's basically doing is it's getting that same material that we have, but only we're telling it that we're going to make this material into a dynamic material. And the idea behind the dynamic material is that you can now interact with it or change it during gameplay or during the lifetime of the game. Okay, I can see Karthik asking, from which option did you put the shine? So in the material, first you have to make sure you choose default lit as your shading model. Remove this from emissive color. And you want to use either roughness or specular. So specular will tell you how shiny it is, and roughness will tell you how rough it is. In general, you want to use roughness and not specular so much because Unreal Engine uses a roughness workflow for the PBR this thing. So you want to handle most of your stuff through roughness. And 0 roughness means super shiny. 1 roughness means fully rough. So it'll have no shine at all. That's the option you use for roughness. Let me just... Here we go. Next question we have is, sir, can we control character and camera on Xbox or PlayStation controller by default, or we have to use some plugin? Can we control character and camera? So the character will, by default, if you use a character from the third-person character or any of the Unreal Engine built templates, they by default work on Xbox and PlayStation controllers. If you don't use that template, then you have to set up your controller input yourself. And you can do that by going into going to edit, project settings, and there's an input option here, input at the left. And over here, you'll have to type, how do you move forward? So right now, because I've chosen the Unreal Engine one, I can press W to move forward. I can press S to move backwards, like you can see -1. I can use up on the keyboard, down on the keyboard, and gamepad stuff. Also, it has some Oculus stuff. So all of this is already pre-dedicated to how you can set up movement. So if you use any of the Unreal Engine templates, you don't have to set this up. But if you create your own from scratch, you will have to set this up. Okay. Yep, I think that covers the questions that we have so far. Let me get back to this here. So what we were discussing about the dynamic nature of the color, of the material rather. So now that we've told it that this material is going to be dynamic, that we want to be able to edit it, we also have to save it. So the way to save it is this return value. It's now showing us, I've just right-clicked and done promote to variable, and it's showing us that once it attaches this dynamic material to this object, I'm saving that as a reference. So as a reference, you see new variable 0. I'm going to name this sphere mat. The idea is that I can later on use this and call and apply some function to it. Okay. So for right now, I'm going to do on event begin play. first, actually, let me just do a custom event. So now I'm creating a custom event. So I'm going to say change color. And I'm going to get this same material that we had. Set vector parameter value. I'm going to explain what I'm doing really quickly once it's done. So basically what I've done is I've now created this small function that whenever this change color gets called upon in the engine, it's going to take that sphere material and it's going to change the color, and the color is going to be made over here. So it's making a linear color. So I'm taking RGB, same values that I had here. Here I've the material I've used, or the color I've used is 100. I'm not using this. Unknown. Yeah, okay, we're good to go now. So the values here I'm using 100. This alpha value is not being used currently. So over here I'm making a different color value and I'm telling it to take random values. So for red it will choose a number from 0 to 1, and here for blue and green also 0 to 1. Here I can see I've already made a mistake. I've chosen integer instead of float. So integer, as you probably remember from your days in high school, your days in school in general, the integer is going to give you a non-decimal number. But in this case, we actually want a decimal number. So we're now going to use integer. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to look for random float. So random float in range, minimum is going to be 0, maximum is going to be 1. And I'm just going to copy this 3 times. So what's going to happen is that every time this is called upon, it's going to take a random red value, random green value, random blue value, and assign it to our final material. So the last thing we need to do is we need to name what our parameter is. Now the parameter is going to be the same thing we named here. So in this case, it's color. So I'm going to go in here and type color. So now we have one simple function set up where it's going to change the color of the sphere. But we still need to call this function and tell it when to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to do on event begin play. And then we're going to do function. Oops, let's do set timer by, oops, I want to do set timer by function name. Oh God. Set timer by function name. And I'm going to name the function the same as this, change color. Make sure I've spelled it correctly. Yep. I'm going to set it to looping and make it 2. So that what's going to happen is once the game starts, it's going to set this function on a timer. So every 2 seconds, it's going to fire this off, this little code that we had written. So let's see if it works when we start it up. There we go. As you can see, every 2 seconds, now that color is changing to a random value. So you can see that really simply by not doing much, I've been able to get something that is already reacting to what we want. Okay, so we're going to let this be. Let's add some more functionality to this sphere, right? So let's make it that this sphere is also let's see, okay. So now what I've done is I've added a box collision to this. So I'm going to just increase the size of it. So maybe this size. Now you can see that it has this box volume. It's not doing anything currently. But what we can do is we can click on this box, and at the bottom of this details panel, you'll see all these events that you can call on top of the box. So we can say on component begin overlap. So let's say on component begin overlap. Once you start overlapping this, let's tell this static mesh sorry. So we're going to set this static mesh to this new size, which is going to be 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And let's do the same thing for when we end overlapping this box. Make it 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Okay. So let's see if this starts working for us already. So you can see as soon as I enter the box, the ball has now become twice the size. Now if I leave, it becomes half the size. And because we have turned the collision, we've left the collision on in this, I can no longer go through the ball. Again, if I want to be able to go through the ball, I can just come in here really quickly and change this to no collision. Compile. And now I should be able to go through the ball while it's changing color and size as I enter it. So you can see it was really simple. I just created a simple gameplay mechanic. You're more than encouraged to like play around with it yourself and try to do something yourself. But tomorrow we will go ahead and build something from scratch like we have done here. Something a little bit more evolved and something you guys can build yourself on the side and also edit it later after our session together is done, and maybe put it as part of the portfolio or learning experience or whatever you guys want. So that's it from me, guys. That's all I had planned for today. I hope this was informative. If you guys have any more questions, please again put them in the chat. Apart from that, I would like to request whoever has a machine that they feel is good enough to run Unreal Engine. It should run on most computers. Only if you have like a Mac Air or something, it might give you some troubles. But if you can download the engine and follow along tomorrow, that would be ideal, and should also give you a little bit more experience with it. I promise you guys, it looks daunting from the beginning, but it's not difficult to pick up at all. If you start working on it yourself and pick up momentum, your confidence yourself will grow and you'll be able to achieve whatever you want within the engine in no time. Okay, I can see Kritik Singh is raising his hand. Do you have a question?
Kritik, do you have any question? Kritik? No.
Okay.
No, sir. Anybody else? Any queries? So, thanks a lot for the day, sir.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
I think we should wind up for the day.
Yeah.
And we will be having the continuity session on tomorrow at same time. It is 2:30.
Yes.
So see you guys. Thanks for the day, sir.
Yeah. Tomorrow, if you guys can have this running, Unreal Engine running on the side from yourselves, if you can download the Epic Games launcher and the Unreal Engine itself, you can follow along. You don't have to, obviously, but obviously, if Unreal Engine really interests you and you feel like you want to start taking the first steps into building something in Unreal, I would highly recommend following along tomorrow. And we'll be able to build something that you yourself can, later on tweak and play around with as well. And tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll go through a 1 hour session of building something, and then like a half an hour session of either troubleshooting or question and answers, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, Rohan is asking, is it the same link? Yes, you just go to if you just Google Unreal Engine and download the Epic Games launcher, it should all just be pretty straightforward. Oh, acha, for the lecture, for Zoom, I don't know that. Tanmay, maybe you can answer that.
We will update you.
Okay, I guess you can update the students.
Okay. Sure, sir.
Okay.
See you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Students, link will be same, and if there is any changes, I will let you know. Thank you.